This one? Test, test. Test, test. 1, 2, test, test. Okay, thank you. This one?
All right. Hello, hello, hello. Hey at home. We miss you guys. We are looking forward to you guys coming back and hanging with us. Welcome to home. Today's Tuesday. Yeah, thank you. That is right. Yes. And we're so glad you guys have joined us. We're so glad you guys are joining us at home. If it's Tuesday night, if it's Saturday morning that you're finally getting the margin to watch, I hear you. But tonight we are talking about being prepared, which seems like kind of an odd thing to talk about tonight because it's kind of there's a lot of anxiety going on. But our heart tonight is definitely not to make anyone uncomfortable, to make you more anxious or anything. It's just to give you resources to be prepared so that if and when an emergency does arise, you've got it in the bag, no big deal. So hear our heart tonight. We're just here for you, trying to give you resources. And we have 3 awesome speakers tonight. I'm really, really excited. I do have a bias with the first one, which I'll explain in a minute. But I am going to invite Dave Guyman on up to this stage. He is an emergency management coordinator. He's a fire department trainer. He's also my dad. So I'm a big fan of him, yes. And so he's going to talk about just general emergency preparedness tonight. And again, not to scare us, just to give us the resources so that we can be confident if something arises.
Thank you. You're going to have to help me out because I'm not a professional speaker. So we're going to ask some questions and you're going to answer them, okay? The title is Emergencies. What? And the biggest part about all of it is being able to think through things when you have time to think through what you're going to do. So basically there's, we're going to talk about 4 different categories tonight. Fires, which are in 2 different forms, a home fire and a wildland fire, which are different scenarios, flood and earthquake. And I'm not going to scare you with a bunch of gory stories. What I want you to do is think through what you would do in these situations. And that's what I'm here to help you with. First off, an earthquake and a house fire happen suddenly. So what happens in a sudden situation is you're forced to think and act. In those sudden situations, a lot of times, panic is the first thing that comes to mind. The way that you overcome panic is by having a plan that you've already walked through in your mind, and then eventually, when you get past the initial response, you can move forward. So that's what we're going to help you with a little bit tonight is how do you overcome panic is with a plan. The first 2 things that always come to our mind is fight or flight. As parents, it's always fight because we got kids. That's the mama bear syndrome. So what we do as parents is grab the kids and run out the door, which is a really good plan as long as you've made a plan beyond that. What are you going to do when you go out the door? Does the rest of your family know where to meet? Do you have a designated place that's safe? So if you have an earthquake and everything's shaking and rumbling, everybody runs out the doors. How are you going to know they're all safe? By thinking it through and having a plan. Say, meet us over at the light post if anything ever happens. Okay, that's your emergency plan. It's not a bad scenario because everybody knows where to go, right? Let's see. The other thing that you can pre-plan is an emergency kit. And you can go easy or you can be very complicated with it. A lot of the earthquake planners tell you all you need really is a couple of days worth of clothes and water and hopefully some food. Because after that point, you should be able to settle down and be able to find things and get back into your house or get help or something. So what do you need for 2 days? That's not so big. That's a small bite we can work on, right? An emergency kit, something easy to grab or is in a place that you know will always be there. The experts recommend that you put it in your car. Anybody go very far without their car these days? Probably not, right? So if you have something in your trunk that you can just grab in the event that something is going horribly wrong and you know everything is in there that you need, you've done all that pre-thinking ahead of time, right? So what should you have in an emergency kit? Well, the things that you would really want are water, because we can't live very long without water. And one of my suggestions is, this is a backpacker's water filtration kit. It gets 200 gallons of water. You can make a mud puddle into 200 gallons of water. Okay, we're in the Pacific Northwest. Chances are we can find a mud puddle or a stream or something. This has been sitting in my wife's trunk for 3 years. They don't go bad. They get kind of beat up, and they're varying in prices, and they have varying gallonage. If you want to go really serious and supersize it, they have filter replacements. So you get 3 replacements, now you have 800 gallons of water. Okay, real easy, just throw it in the trunk, and if you ever need it, it's there. The other thing, which and I don't get money on any of these things, but one of the things we always have in our RV is 7-day supply of dried food. You know, if something happened, well, the RV's big enough to withstand just about anything landing on it. If we know what drawer it's in, we have 7 days worth of food. Okay? So water and the food are the 2 big things, but what are you just ran out of your house probably without your slippers or anything else because you were in a panic. What if you had some clothes? Your old shoes that you thought were out of style, disgusting, and we should just get rid of them. Put a pair in the bag, because what if you ran out without your shoes because you grabbed the kids, one on each hip, and took off? Okay? And then clothes for everybody in your family. 1 bag, 2 sets of clothes is really all you're going to need, because you could wash one if you had to, or, this is an emergency. You could get by. A couple days worth of clothes, right? So if you have these in your trunk, chances are it wouldn't be affected by an earthquake or a fire. Probably not. And then that's in the emergency sudden event that you could grab these. In a wildfire situation, or more likely in our area, a flood, we're going to have a little warning, right? The water's coming or the fire's coming. So in addition to that, what should you have? They suggest putting a Ziploc baggie in your safe, or wherever you hide the family jewels or whatever, a safe place that you'll know where it is. And you just have a list of things that you'll be able to resource, after the day or two, the doctor's records, the health records, vital meds, if you're taking care of somebody my age or older, maybe got heart medications or something. Have a couple days supply in there. Keeping in mind that you have to rotate these, though. You can't just leave them, for years if they're medications and stuff. But having a list on the bottom of the sheet there of things in there, doctor's information. Who is your doctor? What if somebody's trying to help you because you're incapacitated? Who's your doctor? Who can they call? Health records, vital meds, phone numbers of family. There again, if somebody's trying to help you, or if your cell phone is not working, you have to go back to old school, nobody's on speed dial. I don't know anybody, so I couldn't tell you Jamie's phone number. She's speed dial. So something to think about. Put it all in this little Ziploc baggie that if they say, there's a flood coming, grab your stuff. Well, it's already in the safe, so it's safe, but it's ready to go. So just keep it all in there. Chances are in an emergency like that, you're not going to have cell phone coverage. I said I wasn't going to scare you, but I need to tell you that. Because emergency, the Red Cross, civil defense, and emergency operations are going to take over cell towers. Yours is not going to be on the priority list, okay, at least for a couple of days. So think through, the way I always look at it is I'm going on a camping trip. In the middle of nowhere, I got no cell coverage. What do we need? Let's think through that. And everybody's situation is going to be different. What do you need? And when you're packing this, that's what you need to do, is think through your situation, your kids, your spouses, and the way kids grow. good thing to go through about every 6 months and update the clothing so they still fit when if anything ever happens. And then, down on the bottom, if you want to supersize your go bag, there's different things you can think, and you just have to think in your world. It rains here, so big hefty trash bags, they're about this thick. They're a rain shield, and they're a heat retention, and they pack really easily. A tarp, if you're having to live out leaning against your car, flashlight, a tent, freeze-dried food. That's why I showed this little bag here, or box. So just think in your situation, what can you pre-think that'll help you, because you're not going to be thinking rationally on the way out the door. I don't need my tennis shoes, I need my kids. So if you've done all the rest of this, and after everybody's safe and you're out at the light post, you go, let's go back to the car and get the bag. And then we'll have all this stuff already in there. So just something to think through. Can I answer any questions for anybody? I'm not trying to scare anybody here, but one thing to keep in mind is earthquakes are coming. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So, be prepared. And I've been through a lot of these things on earthquakes, and Oregon State does a great presentation on them. And, we're like 200 years overdue for them. So, we're not trying to scare you. This is reality. Just what can you do to help yourself in these kind of situations? Okay? Yes? It depends how critical that is.
Can you either repeat the question?
Yes. Medications are not stockpiled, or you don't usually have a lot of them around. So how do you do that? How do you handle that situation? You could talk to your doctor. If it's a critical medication, they will let you go, 2 weeks ahead of time. But if it's that critical, you also have to keep rotating it. But there again, if you have a go bag, and like in your Ziploc, and you just put it in your normal thing once a month, I'm going to rotate this out. You'll get into a routine on it. And there again, it depends how critical it is. Most medications, they're good for 60, 90 days. You can put a week's supply in it and rotate it out once every 3 months. But, how many people in your lives have time to be thinking of these things every 6 months? So we're trying to keep it really simple. What can you do to just make this something you can just grab and run out the door with? Medications, if it's a critical one, is always something you should think of, because chances are hospitals aren't going to be available and nobody's going to be able to get anything to you. So if it's that critical, talk to your doctor, and get some kind of a plan, an extra week's worth, or 30 days ahead. They'll usually work with you on that. Any other questions?
For water, I know we do have a filter.
Mm-hmm.
But even if it's summer or if it's an earthquake, I just was wondering, if you just have a camping filter, not one like that where you can do a mud puddle,
Yeah.
Do you think is the water going to be affected? Do you think it'll be hard to find water? Should we have gallon waters in addition to a filter, or?
Okay, the question is, how available will water be in a situation like that, and what kind? It varies on where you're at. I mean, we have the river right here. It's probably not going anywhere except maybe over the banks. And there's lots of water puddles. Something to think through. Okay, here's a question for you. In your house, what do you have? Everybody has water in their house, right? Water tank for the hot water heater, 50 gallons. There's the valve on the bottom. Okay, you got 50 gallons of water sitting right there. Don't gross out. Toilets. The toilet tank is fresh water, 2.5 gallons. Okay, that's a day's worth of water. Think about things like that. Do you want to store water? You can. It does start growing algae after a while. So I would, if you're going to store gallons of water, use them and just replace them. It's always a great idea. RVs, what do you have, 50 gallons in your RV? I keep mine full. Why? I don't know. I'm paranoid. That makes sense. So, think of things like that. What do you have around your house that's already there? You don't have to go out and buy extra stuff. Use what you have, but have a plan that you've already thought it through. So when you're standing at the light post, you can say, oh yeah, go get the water. Hook the hose up to the hot water heater and bring it out here and put the nozzle on it, and we'll have 50 gallons of water. This system right here is just add water. So I have a water filter. I can add water. I have 66 meals. And it's pretty compact. I don't know how good they are. I've never eaten them, but it'll probably keep me alive. So, any other questions? Yes.
Where do you recommend a meetup spot to tell my kids? What would be the safest and best plan to head?
Okay, what's the meetup spot? Every house is different. You want to be away from anything tall that can fall on you, away from any natural gas or things that are going to be a hazard. So the ideal spot is in the middle of nowhere, if you have that near your house. Or, the down on the corner. Whatever works near your house that you can say, if anything ever happens, you can't find us, go there and I'll be there. Okay, that's peace of mind for them too. So, but it's going to be different. Just when you think of it, go stand there. What can fall on me? And, probably the riverbank's not an ideal spot either, but, think it through. The middle of a field is a great spot to go. So, find one. Anybody else? Well, thanks. And if you have questions, especially business and things, the Benton County Emergency Management System is great. And they'll come to businesses and work you through all that, and it's a great resource just to go online and check it out. All of this information is in much more detail on situations like that. Their emergency management systems are statewide and then broken down by county and city. So it'll be very specific information. But just know you're probably not going to have any help for 48 hours. That's what this is. What are you going to do for 48 hours? Okay? Well, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Wonderful, thank you. That's a good question about finding a place to meet though, Megan. And we practice that with our kids, and my kids make it a game. If we're here at so-and-so's house, where's our spot? And it becomes lighthearted eventually. I felt doom and gloom bringing it up, but they're no big deal, okay. All right, so our next speaker, I'm going to invite Jack up in just a second, is Jack Burright. He is a master martial arts instructor, NRA firearms instructor, and a law enforcement trainer. So he is coming today to teach us a little bit about self-defense, and again, just equipping us so we are confident, heaven forbid the situation arise. Or, if you just need energy out, he has pads you can punch, I think. So, right, Jack? All right, we're ready for you. Are you ready for us? Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, all right. Well, I talked loud already, so you guys will probably be muting me here in a minute. That was a great presentation on emergency management. Earthquakes are something we don't think much about that are way overdue. So I'll climb up here on the stage to get taller. So I've taught this classes for many years in many different varieties. I've never done one in 15 minutes, so we'll rush as fast as we can and try to answer some questions and go from there. I've been on the road a lot, so I'm a little hoarse. I was blessed to go to Las Vegas and teach. I actually had 4 courses I scheduled in January. Go figure what would happen in March. And so I was in Vegas for a weekend. It was interesting because I taught in Vegas, and you couldn't tell anything was going on there, really. But I rented a van, and we had an extra day to go see the Grand Canyon. And the first thing that bothered me was the van had Tennessee plates on it, which if anybody, I guess if you understand the word of law enforcement or self-defense, out-of-state plates mean you're not from there. So, I'm not from Tennessee, but certainly going through Utah and Arizona, it got my attention being with a van with Tennessee plates, because that does give people a mark a little bit to look for. Not about scaring anyone, it's about education and everything we do. So I flew to Vegas, came home, drove to Reno Sunday, and it is feeling a little bit there. It was a little quieter. Came back today. I got to do my first saliva COVID test at 3 o'clock with a lady on Zoom where you spit into this little thing for about a half hour. They want like 4 gallons of spit. I was going to give it to my boxer, maybe see if he could add to it, but and fly out for Kauai Friday. So it's been a busy few days. Yeah, so I'm learning on how to eat on an airplane with a mask on. It's pretty entertaining. So question and answer real quick. Classes are hopping. They have been for many years. Now, they go different stretches. Granted, my law enforcement career started in the 80s. If I'll back up a little bit, Life Flight came after I started in law enforcement. 1 copter for the state of Oregon. Now there's 16. So you see the evolution. The same thing in self-defense cases and everything else. So a lot of it's building confidence skills in all we do and just being aware of your surroundings, what you see and what you do. The Tennessee plates got my attention. The SWAT commander from Las Vegas Metro and me are good friends from a former training. He said 2 things to me. He was cussing the mask because it's raising all sorts of problems with him in Vegas right now. And he said, don't talk about Mandalay Bay, I'll get fired. That was 2 things he said to me in our get-together in Vegas. But it's interesting because the dynamics. Who would ever thought you're going to have, I don't know how many people were in Vegas, but, typical. It was huge. That Fremont was just packed. And how do you ID people? It has changed the whole thing. And for me, it's facial expressions. How do you know? I try to smile at people. I don't know if they hate you or not. The nice lady got me some water. Thank gosh. I could see she was kind of smiling, but so we have to look at those elements. True self-defense is really being ahead of the game and recognizing something before it happens and controlling that situation. When I was in law enforcement, obviously, we had a way of looking for people. As a civilian, that also follows suit. And quite honestly, that's your first step there is one thing animals have. I have 3 boxers. Does anyone else have a dog, a boxer? I'm not saying they're the most brilliant dog in the world. They're kind of simple. But North Albany, my 3 boxers. But I'll say one thing. They see 100 kids a week in my classes. I've got big classes right now. And they love them all. They've just been around kids all their life. But every once in a blue moon, that dog will growl. One of them will. Or their hair will stand up. And that is something we should all listen to because we're all conditioned to be polite to people, whatever surrounding you're in. And unfortunately for humans, we're told that, we're trained that, we teach our kids that. Well, dogs aren't trained that way. So when something spooks them, oftentimes they're going to react differently. And those are those instincts all of us have that sometimes we forget about. And that is something I can't tell people enough. In law enforcement, I worked many cases, obviously, including the Wilberger case and big cases, and some small ones, and homicides and all sorts of, obviously criminal acts. When I left law enforcement, I worked for the defense bar for 6 years as a licensed investigator in 3 states. And I saw a different side and another element. But the one thing that stayed the same was understanding your instincts, whatever case you're on, and how you do things. So learning to fight is really not that hard of a skill. Learning to when to fight and learning to protect yourself is. That's something we all got to work on. And as we age, I can't speak for anyone in this group, but you saw me cripple up here. 13 surgeries. I ran hood to coast 4 times. Now I'm lucky if I run to my mailbox. And so I got to take that element in for my own life that I'm not quite as sharp as I used to be, I don't think. So I comb my hair forward now, these things that you do now that I never had to do. So yes, Jade was so excited to have me here. She decided to leave, I heard. I texted her sick. She said, thanks for coming. She asked me this in July, or I don't know when she asked me this. It was quite a while ago. Anyway, it's kind of funny. She says, we're out of here. But can I answer any questions real quick? Because this is a very high-speed class. I mean, I've done these classes in 8 hours. I've done them in 16 hours. I've done them at LBCC, week-long classes. There's a lot to it. It's complex in a lot of ways in your training. If you think about any of you have a profession, think about what you get out of a 3-hour CPR class. Do I have any doctors in here? I'm blessed to have 3 doctors in my martial arts class. So now it's not Dr. Jack going, oh, that looks really bad. Uh-oh, But to be a doctor, all the training they have to do to be a doctor, and continuing training and continuing education. And it's the same with I've seen medics work, and I use the CPR, for example, when there's a tragedy or some type of issue where they're in action. They're so comfortable doing it. Well, and that should be the same for our self-defense skills, is getting our comfort level. And what the gentleman talked a little bit about, go bags or grab bags, we're going to call it, but having a bag or having something, having a call sign. I have college. Well, my youngest daughter graduated from Portland State for some odd reason and now works at a fancy Petco, so she's using her college degree efficiently, called Mud Bay. And so anyway, yeah. But when she worked at Camp Tadmore, she'd constantly bring her friends over from the camp because they would, I think they all wanted free food. And I don't know how many times I tell my daughter, Carissa, can you at least text me before 25 people? I'm on 8 acres. Me and my 3 boxers, we get a little excited when people come visit me. But, we live in this world of technology. Does anybody go somewhere without texting anymore? Can you tell someone you're showing up? Do you answer your door when someone knocks on it? I don't, half the time. Sometimes I listen on the other side, see what they say about me. Sometimes it's nice, it's and it's funny you bring that up. Pros and cons of technology, but yes. So the SWAT commander, I'm not going to get into a whole scenario with him from Las Vegas, right? So we're old friends. But he was talking about that exactly. We're talking, they have all this technology in Las Vegas. However, right now with the masks, and we're not just talking the masks you're wearing here. People wear, clear over their eyes and gas, you get the extravagant and everything. They're having a hard time IDing people. And when someone's on a run, trying to ID them and serve a warrant. So, yeah, just like the ring, he said that was funny talking about burglaries and stuff, some of the things, because if you're masked up already, and they think it's normal right now, is it weird to walk in? You see someone without a mask, you almost get scared. Like, what's that lady at Winco? She's not wearing a mask. Oh, my gosh. So, but technology does play a role, and I say our wireless technology is amazing. So, can I answer any questions?
Just with like I live close to a transient or
West Hills Road?
what?
On West Hills?
Western, off of Western.
Okay. I was a paper boy there. I know that area. So, okay. So,
And just like, if I'm unsure of someone, and I have 2 little girls, like, how do because I know a lot of them are fine and safe, maybe, but some of them aren't, and how would I approach or like talk to someone or stand in such a way that was not just like, I disregard you, but like, I just need to know who to just walk away or how to I can have a conversation with this person. They're nice, they're fine. Does that make sense?
absolutely. 2 elements, cover and concealment. And I tell people all the time, concealment will hide you, cover will protect you. And a lot of times it's putting a barrier between me and somebody else, whether it be a chair, a car, or desk, or a bench and you're outside, whatever, because it makes it harder for them to come around it. They have to maneuver around it. So that's one thing, an element's used in law enforcement and we use in self-defense all the time. Again, listen to your instincts, not to pick on the mentally ill, but a lot of times our homeless are mental ill, they have mental illnesses. Our facilities are completely shut down. Damish in my career closed. State Hospital crippled. I heard Good Sam is still running, but they're at limited capacity. So therefore, they're out. Our jails right now aren't taking people. You've got to really commit an act. Again, talking out of state, but it's the same problems nationwide right now. So, yeah, transient camps. I bring that up because a friend of mine's an attorney lives, I think it's West Hills. This is West Hills, yeah, close to the other church, the bottom of West Hills and Sunset. That's my paper route. But they have a big transient camp there, and they're having all sorts of trouble. And unfortunately, in Corvallis right now, I mean, it's hopping. I hate to say it. I just was down on the Marys the other day, and unreal. But safe thing for your kids, safe words, pay attention to things, watch your surroundings. Do you have a question, or I was boring you? You bet. I hope I'm not wearing people out.
My kids are getting older, they're 10 and 6, and they want to go down and play like down the street with their friends. Now, what do you think about the GPS trackers, like putting them on the children?
They're amazing technology, but they can fail. And it's just, so again, having 2 daughters, but my youngest, the fact we have cell phones now and the fact we can track people, I mean, it's almost spooky how well we can track people. I have these kids camps. I'll give you an example. One of our deputies came out and brought his drones out. That thing goes 11,000 feet up. That is unreal. He could read every license plate in my parking lot and you couldn't see it. So that technology is amazing. And as he brought up the cell towers, just the same way, it can also be compromised. So I'm all for technology, but I'm also for the old fact, what if it fails? Because some people rely on it way too much. We had a SWAT mission in John Day, Oregon. If you've ever been to Eastern Oregon, but 2 guys from LA County with me in the 90s. They had their phone out on my phone with me, up in the air, running around in circles trying to find cell service in John Day. They go into a little restaurant. Almost everyone's carrying a sidearm because it's John Day. It's ranchers. So the funny part of the story, we're going up on a mountain to search for a guy that killed his parents that lives on a mountain. His name was Willie Hinton. What the SWAT commander from LA County told me was, they said, those guys were so happy to get back to LA where it's safe. These crazy people in Oregon make you go run up on a mountain and look for Grizzly Adams. It was terrible. But I love the technology. I can't keep up on it. I just have friends asking me the other day, and people in classes asking me about the surveillance cameras and the wireless, and I think it's all amazing until it's compromised, and that's the only downfall to it. Yes.
I have a question. What would you recommend as far as like equipping ourselves with something that can help us, like as like pepper spray or like, you know, I know there's like a couple of different things out there, like carrying a pocket knife or something. Like, what are of those tools are going to be helpful, and what would just be like a distraction for us versus like jabbing and like doing the eye thing?
Absolutely. A great question. Technology works on everybody, or I should say techniques, until you want it to work on a person you need it to. I've been around the pepper spray thing for many years, and we used to spray all the officers with it so they could see if they could fight through it. And one thing's for certain, it worked on everybody but the person we sprayed half the time. They could fight through it. Not all times. It depends what their goal is, too. If their goal is to hurt you or harm you, they still may fight through it. If their goal is just to steal something from you, they may go find an easier target. So it depends on their goal. Shock devices work and they don't work. Edge weapons, they're gruesome. They're an evil weapon. And I've seen many cuts and stabbings and stuff. I mean, and people bring up firearms. And I'm also very anti-firearm for people that don't want to carry one or are scared they're not going to be able to use it because they get it taken away from them oftentimes. Ralph Painter, chief of police of Scappoose, great guy, sat on a board with him on the coast, shot and killed with his own gun. I can name that 10 or 15 times. And unfortunately, there's videos made in that example that are all over the nation to police officers and not what to do. So if you want to make the decision to carry a weapon, train with it, whatever that weapon may be. And nothing wrong with pepper spray. I mean, it does have its work. Just spray yourself or spray a trash can and smell it a little bit so it doesn't startle you. Oftentimes, it will compromise your breathing a little bit, make your eyes burn. And, you know, there's a lot of, what's the word I want to say nicely? I'm in a church, my gosh. Maybe BS. Maybe that's not the right word, but a lot of hubbub out there that's not always accurate, that people say, well, this stuff has UV dye, or this stuff works on bears. Well, yes and no, you know, and it's a business. They're selling the product. But I'd be more than happy if anyone wants some pepper spray. I would steer you in the right direction. It's a company called Sabre. That's what law enforcement carries, and it's a pretty effective stuff. And pay a little bit more, get a little bit more. So, but anything's good. L.A. County, if I can make one point, I saw a car stop and I was riding with him years ago where the deputy had his gun out and on his hip. And I said to the deputy I was riding with, I said, he's got his gun out. And he said, we do that on all our car stops here. Probably a rough area is my guess of Los Angeles County. Point being is, I've said this all along, if it's not in your hand when you need it, oftentimes you'll have to do something to get to it. So carrying a firearm in your purse or carrying pepper spray or an edged weapon or a stun gun, whatever it may be, if it's not really available or not in your hand when things go bad, you might not be able to get to it. So you got to learn some other basic skills to get to that weapon and train that way. And that's not to induce paranoia. Yeah.
Teach some basic skills?
Absolutely. I've never done a mass before, but I brought some equipment. Jade threw me the wolves here. She went out of town. She's drinking or something. I don't know. Because I actually have a huge PowerPoint on this, and then I thought, I didn't know I was even going to speak tonight. But you guys, I've been driving from Reno all day today trying not to get a ticket. And I thought, ever go through Alturas? A bunch of people mask on, you know. But so absolutely. Let's, yeah. Can I take off my thing now, or am I still being recorded? Okay. How can we do this? You want in-hand training? Okay. Well, let's do something. Yes, I will come down here. All right. I do not have any kids here, but since I have a lot of moms, I do believe, and dads, if you want to teach your kids something really cool for self-defense, is teach them how to wrap around a leg. Can I borrow you for a minute? Because I know you. You are fine. My young child.
Yeah.
She was in my firearms class, talked a lot. Got to watch her. I do this all the times in the kids' classes and train this, because ultimately, if I was to pick up or take a child, I'm going to grab them and run. That's what they do. So what you teach your child is slowly, can you get around and wrap yourself around my leg? Get on your knees. Yep, get on. Wrap your legs around. I'll show you. Keep going. Yep, keep going. I'm glad you're here. Keep going. Grab tight. Don't be screwing around. If that's a 30-pound child, I've got 30 pounds on this leg, and she can bite and growl and do whatever she wants, but I can't run. And we will teach kids all the time in my kids' class to shoot for that leg. Thank you so much. That was a good job. And
And a really good job.
32 pounds of pink and blue rippling steel right there. And so that's a great technique to teach with your kids. For getting wrist grabs, Kristen, can I borrow you for a minute? How are you? Good. What do you do for a living, Kristen? Stay-home mom. One of the best jobs out there, because a lot of times the ones that aren't have their kids with problems. Grab my wrist. So we got 4 fingers and we got 1 thumb. Martial arts is truly a science. We can fight all 4 of the fingers, or we can fight a thumb. You got 1 versus 4. So she grabs tight, and she lets go. Very nice. Grab tight. Go ahead. Both hands. That's fine. She's pretty strong. Look. Has anyone tested her for steroids? Anyway. And instinctively, now watch this. My thumb is here. She can extend the arms out. She's got something really cool. She's obviously got a husband that loves her. Look at the size of that rock. We've got what's called cool DNA right here. So we got the scrape. That's good. Good evidence later. That's what I'd be in a crime scene. We look for nails. We take nails, and we take anything that's going to give us some DNA. That's great stuff. Instinctively, Kristen, right? I'm going to pull her. And instinctively, she wants to pull back. I hate to tell her, I outweigh her probably twice as much, and especially my eating habits lately. So instinctively, instead of pulling back, I want her to lunge forward, come towards me. So when you pull me, see the difference? So when people talk about martial arts, about size and strength, what she's using here, when I grab, instead of becoming a tug of war, a war of attrition, I'm pulling, she's going to step towards me and strike me and get loose. See the angle of my arm? And that's, instinctively, we want to pull back. We all do, because it's a kind of this tug. Teach people to move forward. Teach people to move forward. Insert rock. Leave nice mark. Good DNA. She'll get a rock back, or maybe get a new one. Either way, it's all good. Thank you. All right. Hey, you got someone liking you. So you... what else? That works for 2 hands. Grab, same with the wrist. Where's the thumbs at? Right here. Hello?
What about behind the back?
Okay. Come here. Your time. Oh, no, I'm sorry. This is a rough crowd. All right, and she's been to the gun show. Oh my gosh. So I grab from the back, like this. We're blessed with joints, 1, 2, and 3. She's got 2 of the 3. So where my hip goes, and I do this all the time in a women's class, is the hips turns, and we strike. Oh. For the people who like to throw, and we toss. For the people who like arts, we turn, and we get the angles. So all 3 play. You're a good dancer. I didn't know you knew how to dance. Thank you. So those are all 3, but come here. Come on, my muscle-bound powerhouse. Lock your arms out like this. You work out. Look at the arms on you. My gosh. Don't let me bend them out. Good gosh. All right, now, don't let me bend them in, Brittany. Do you CrossFit? Yeah. Okay. Why can I bend those arms? Because I'm fighting a deltoid here, and she knows her muscle groups. Here's a war of attrition, chest, we're both fighting our chest muscle, or our large muscle groups. So if I always go towards someone back, I can always control them, because I'm fighting this itty-bitty muscle up here. Same with me. Push my arms out.
Out?
Yeah. Now, push them in. Oh, God. See the difference? She's fighting a very small muscle. There's your science. There's your science in martial arts. Throw a baseball, Brittany. You must play. Get a little closer. I have to run after you. Think of martial arts as throw a baseball slowly, natural, unnatural. Oh. So, unnatural, unnatural. Thank you very much. So, when we start, I'm glad you came. I should have paid you before class. You'd made me look better. I know. All she's thinking is, this guy needs to go to Weight Watchers. Anyway. So those are some simple now. I don't know how much time. I think you got 3 speakers. I don't want to take
2 more minutes.
2 minutes. Oh my gosh. All right.
Can I ask you a question?
Absolutely, please.
So I understand the instinct is to run away.
Yep.
So how do you train yourself to lean in? To step in?
It takes practice. It takes practice.
You do it with your friends, or like how do you?
We do it in class. You know, there's an adage of train hard, fight easy. It's an old school thing. It's a little bit work with people, you know, and this is where husbands, I will pick on husbands for a minute because they're both very cooperative with me, and they'll come home and show me how to do this move, and it doesn't work. Well, it's because you're not really trying to make it work. You're not trying to tear an eyeball out or hit them in the groin so hard they're cross-eyed. You're trying, you know, so it's practice, it's repetition, and it becomes automatic. It's like driving a car. Once you drive a stick shift, which is kind of an anomaly these days, isn't it? They say that's the best theft deterrent right now for a car. People come up and go, how's this thing work? It's a clutch, you know. It takes a lot of practice, and it becomes automatic. And what you'll find is, miss, on skills at times, you do it so fast, you're not thinking about it. So I call it cross-fat because I was kind of chubby, but but I was doing cross-fat a few years ago, but you see the guys with technique, you know, and men and women doing cleans and some exercises, clear back from my football, baseball era, and amazing. Yes.
Another thing for like asking what our kids can do, like I like the light one. I hadn't thought of that, but if someone were to take them where they were uncomfortable, what would you deter the person other than screaming or, you know?
You know, we all go around, and I was just in Vegas, so screaming kids. I find it an odd place because people bring their families. I was there for teaching, but, you know, little strollers going through all the place, you know, and kids all irritated. And I don't know, maybe that's not my first pick for destination for my newborn, but who knows. I tell people code words. You know, in law enforcement, I'll give one example. I usually don't share this with classes, but if I ever point to the badge, it means that person's got a gun, is going to kill me. So I'd say, you don't want to kill me. I'm pointing to my badge, meaning, which is going to tell the other deputies, or at least the ones we trained with together, that something very bad is happening. With kids, it's getting remedial training and to say, you know, the fire, yell, scream, bite, chew, just really fight. Disney World, by the way, again, I'm not going to take up the whole class, can lock down that place in 90 seconds. I don't know if you have search and rescue coming, quadrant searches in 90 seconds, unreal. You know what they do too, and I'm not politically correct, I apologize, is they profile. That little thing you come up to, that very first little booth, they're already looking. If there's an issue, they're dealing with it there, next to the parking lot. So by the time you get into Disney World, it's a pretty safe place. You don't see a lot of problems at Disney World. Why do they say that? Because they average about $1.5 million a day in income. It's all about income based. You know, they make their living at it. So teaching kids, I think surroundings, not to go anywhere. I think when Jamie did my firearms class, we did handgun disarming, didn't we? That's a hard one to teach people how to take a gun away from someone. And the reality is, if they haven't shot you with it, they want something from you. If I'm pointing a gun at Kristen, I haven't shot her. It's easy to shoot someone, or, you know, to make the gun work, pull the trigger. I want something from her personally, or maybe something financially, but whatever reason, I've not pulled the trigger yet. That's a good sign. That's a good sign. The same with an edged weapon. If it's presented like a homeless person, as someone asked, or a mentally ill person, they're not out to cut you. If they're out to cut you, they're going to put it, it's called palming it. They're going to bring it right up. I guess you won't even see it until they strike with it. If they're going to shoot you, they're going to be pulling the trigger before they walk up to you. So recognizing a goal, and the same with the kids. The gentleman right before me, does he work emergency management somewhere?
He did.
Okay. Well, interesting talking about, I have some videos, but talking about anxiety, teaching kids to control their breathing, teaching kids a safe word. That's a big thing. A spot in your house where you can all go. Having that plan out ahead. This is not paranoia. This is all about training. Because
What class is that?
I do a firearms, I do a self-defense class, and then I have a martial arts school. So in North Albany. I drive over there. I'm from Corvallis. I was a paper boy, proud Gazette Times, 3 years, almost carrier of the month. I was runner-up. But
Is your firearms class through the martial arts?
I do both. So I was blessed in law enforcement to do both. I did martial arts and firearms before I became in law enforcement, but in 1988 when I joined, and I still do it now for civilians, so yes. And
Do you have a card or something?
I do. I think I probably left them in my car because I was intimidated by this mean group. And after Jade said, "See you later, we're out of here," I'm out of here. But yeah, I'll get you some cards, absolutely. But it's Counter Strikes International. I'm on social media. Don't pay attention to my antics. And Jamie does, but she tells me to put that stuff up there. And a website, but absolutely. And we have a lot of courses and a lot of different people. It's been really interesting lately is a diversity of people that I've never seen before. It's been really, really interesting, to say the least. Unfortunately, both those fields sometimes bring a victim after the fact. But with that victim, a lot of times they've learned to survive. And an old adage I used to say in law enforcement is you've never lived, you've almost died. For those who fight for it, life has a flavor the protected will never know. If you've been in something so traumatic and have lived through it, you're going to react differently. And I'll do a class every once in a while, and I'll see sometimes it's a man, sometimes it's a woman, sometimes it's a foster child. I have a lot of foster kids. And they act so quick to that situation, tells me right there, something bad has been in their life. You know, they don't have to tell me to know it. And but they got survival, and then we train with it to get through that. So absolutely. I try to make it fun and give you training, because if you make it all serious, you intimidate people and they run and hide, and if you get too crazy, you know, and quite honestly, we're in a very safe community. We really are. You know, being in several states here recently, I'm so blessed. Even the Grand Canyon was kind of interesting. Never been there before, and just a different clientele there when I was there. It was, and the different stops along the way, so.
All right, well, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Tough. Tough. Tough.
Thank you so much. That was super helpful. And will you bring cards in for us? And if anyone watching online wants his contact information, get a hold of one of us leaders and we will pass it along as well. All right. And next is our lovely Michaela. This will be a very familiar face once we get to see her unmasked. And she's going to talk to us about car seat safety.
Hi,
She told us she won't tell me how to wrangle my toddler into
No,
a
sorry. I'm
car
not going
seat.
to tell you how to wrangle your child who won't get in a car seat. I'm sorry. But I am going to read because I wrote this whole thing and I'm a mom and I didn't memorize it. So I'm going to read it to you guys. So I'm super excited to be sharing about car seat safety. It's something that I've been passionate about for a lot of years. Currently, my youngest child is almost 5, so I'm out of like the infant stage, and my kids are currently in 5-point harness convertible seats, which means a seat that can be forward-facing or rear-facing, or high-back booster seats. So the first thing that I want to touch on is the stigma around car seat safety. It's so easy to feel like somebody is judging you if they say anything about the way that you use your child's car seat. But I hope with all my heart that what I say tonight will not feel judgy and that you'll leave feeling like you can help break the stigma around talking about car seat safety. So much of parenting is instinctual, but I don't think that car seat safety is. It's not something that you just know how to do. It takes research and it takes practice. If somebody ever comes up to you with a tip on how to use your child's car seat more safely, I hope that you can give them the benefit of the doubt and know in your heart that they're not judging your parenting, but that they have your child's safety and best interest at heart and that they're coming to you out of love. So with that said, an estimated 59% of car seats and 20% of booster seats are misused in a way that could reduce their effectiveness. Children up to 2 years old are about 75% less likely to die or sustain serious injury in a rear-facing car seat than a forward-facing one. And that's because a rear-facing seat spreads the crash force more evenly across the back of the car seat and the child's body, so rear-facing is 500% safer. The general rule is to use your car seat until your child reaches the maximum requirements on that seat. Now, I 100% encourage this, but I realize that it's not always feasible. I had to turn one kid forward-facing a little bit sooner than I would have liked because he would not stop kicking his sister in the face. And I cannot safely drive my car with a foot to the face happening in the back seat on every single trip. So I understand that exceptions have to be made. But whenever possible, it's recommended to use your seat until your child reaches the maximum requirements. Oregon law, and actually 23 states now, requires that your child remain rear-facing until they're 2 years old, but it's recommended until at least 3. I promise that their legs are not too long to be rear-facing and they're not uncomfortable. When children are very little, they have cartilage between their vertebrae instead of bones. Their vertebrae start fusing around the time they're 4.5 years old, and sometimes as late as age 6. So this is why rear facing is so important. The AAP states that kids should be in booster seats until age 8 and sitting in the back seat of the car until age 13. Don't tell my daughter. So if there's one thing that I hope that you take away from tonight, it's to read your manual. Your specific car seat manual is going to have all the information that you need to know how to use your seat safely. Every seat is different, and it's so important to know the ins and outs of your particular seat. People will often tell you that if you have questions or need help installing your car seat, to just go to a fire station, but that's actually a common misconception. Fire stations are generally sites where car seat clinics are held, but firemen are not trained at installing car seats. I think it would be fantastic if every fire station had at least one certified tech, but I don't get to make those rules. So instead, I would encourage you to Google, find a car seat tech near me. And there's a great website where you can type in your zip code and it will give you a list of people near you. And I actually have names and numbers of a few in Corvallis and Albany with me tonight if anybody needs one. One resource that I know of for getting car seats at a major discount is WIC. If you are a member of WIC, you can ask your worker for a car seat referral. This is not something that they advertise a bunch. And they can write you a referral for the next car seat clinic that's near you. When you go to the car seat clinic, a tech will be there to help you install your seat and make sure that your child fits properly and is buckled properly. It's been a while since I've gotten a seat this way. That's how I got this one. And I think that you still have to pay something for the seat, but it's $50 instead of $300. So don't quote me, but I wanted to share that resource. So now that I've touched on a couple of resources and the reasoning behind certain laws, I want to talk a little bit about best car seat practices. So these are a few of the most common mistakes made surrounding car seats and how they can be avoided. So first, let's talk about buckling. This is probably the most common mistake that I see. If you don't want to hear opinions about how your child is buckled, then you should not post pictures of your kids in their car seats on social media because people will say things. But I am always happy to help friends who send me a picture of their kid in a car seat and say, does this look right? And I promise that I will not buckle shame you. So first, you want to make sure that none of their straps are twisted. This can cause force from a crash to not be distributed the way that it should be, and it can reduce the effectiveness of your seat. Straps should always lay flat with no twists, and this actually includes seat belts used to install the car seats. No twists. Next, you want your child's straps to be snug as a hug. And I actually use this phrase when I'm showing somebody else how to buckle my child. And my kids know this phrase, and we repeat it often. I'll ask them, how tight should your straps be? And they'll tell me, snug as a hug. You should not be able to pinch the car seat webbing at their shoulder. Speaking of shoulders, if your child is rear-facing, their straps should sit at or below their shoulders. And if they're forward-facing, the straps should sit at or above their shoulders. And now the hottest buckling topic of all, chest clips. The easiest rule of thumb to remember is that your child's chest clip should be at armpit level. I discussed this with my kids as well, and I actually explained to them that not wearing their chest clip the correct way could mean that their seat would not hold them in an accident. I don't say it to scare them, but so that they know why we wear our seatbelts properly. The same way I wear my seatbelt properly across my chest, they're responsible for keeping theirs where it should be on their chest. Chest clips are actually designed to break with enough impact, so it's important that it be over their breastbone and not up by their neck or down by their belly, where it could cause much more serious damage. The other really hot buckling topic, especially at this time of year, is bulky coats. Bulky coats should not be worn in car seats. The thickest thing your child should wear in their seat is a fleece jacket or a lightweight rain jacket. Anything thicker should be removed before you place your child in their seat. And so I actually brought a couple of coats. I would let my child wear this in their car seat. I would not let my child wear this in their car seat. I would let my 8-year-old wear this in her car seat only because she sits with a regular seatbelt, and I would wear something like this in my seat. But I probably would not let my 4-year-old wear something like this in his seat because it interferes with how tight his straps can be. I do have a couple of ideas for keeping your kids warm during super cold weather. One is to preheat your car if you live in a place where you can do that. If you live in like an apartment complex, not always practical, but if you have a driveway or a garage, totally recommend. Another is to take a cozy blanket with you to the car and tuck it in around your kiddo once they're buckled. And another is to use the reverse jacket trick where you buckle your kid into their car seat and then you put their coat you put their coat on around them so their arms go through this way and they just wear it backwards. Okay, let's talk a little bit about installation. Once again, I'll refer you to your car seat manual for all the ins and outs of safety installing your particular seat. But I wanted to touch on a couple of things. The first is the difference between using latch, which stands for lower anchors and tethers for children, in case you didn't know that, or using a seatbelt to install your car seat. The recommendation among car seat techs that I've talked to is to use whichever method gets you a better install with your particular seat. So one is not necessarily better than the other, it just depends on your seat, and it varies from car to car and seat to seat. Never use both at the same time. You would think that that would give you double coverage, but they're not designed to be used together. One reason is that putting 2 installation belts through the same path could put stress on the car seat shell from 2 different angles during a crash, which could cause breakage or malfunction. You also cannot install 2 car seats using the same lower anchor in your car. So in the case of 2 seats right next to each other, one could use latch and the other could have a seatbelt installation. When you install your car seat, you want to do a wiggle test where you basically install it and then you just yank it from side to side and see if it moves. There should be less than 1 inch of movement from forward to back or from side to side when it's tightened properly. I actually like to put my knee into the seat and put some of my own weight into it while I tighten the belt. And I can show you guys that if you want to see. Top tether straps should always be used with forward-facing seats. All vehicles manufactured since 2003 must have lower anchors in at least 2 seating positions and tether anchors in at least 3 seating positions. Annoyingly, this sometimes is what determines where your kid sits in the car. One other thing I wanted to touch on is the use of aftermarket products with your car seat. Aftermarket products would include things like infant pillows and strap covers. As a general rule, if the product did not come in the box with your car seat, it should not be used with your seat. The exception to this is aftermarket products manufactured by your particular car seat company, which generally means that the product has been crash tested with your seat. Otherwise, using aftermarket products can void the warranty of your car seat and interfere with the proper use of your seat. Car seat covers that attach to the top bar of your infant seat are okay to use, just not anything that goes between your child and the seat or their straps, unless manufactured by your seat's company. And finally, let's talk really quickly about the disposing of car seats. If your car seat has been in a moderate to severe accident, even if your child was not in it, or if the seat was in your car but not installed, it should be replaced. If your seat was in a minor accident, check with your manufacturer about replacing it. I have details about what constitutes a minor crash if you're interested. And insurance will generally pay for the replacement of a seat. To dispose of a seat, you can either use it in a trade-in event that places like Target or Walmart have, or you can throw it away. To throw it away, you should do these things. First, remove the cover. You can save it if you have multiples of the same seat like we do. Sometimes it's nice to have a spare cover. Then you cut the straps and you destroy them so that they're unusable. Write "do not use" with a Sharpie in multiple places on the front and the back of the seat. And if the shell includes foam, you can rip that off too. And for best results, do it when you're in a really bad mood. Who has questions about car seats? Yes.
When you're putting in the car seat forward facing, you're using the seat belt, or I guess rear facing, you're using the seat belt versus the latch thing. Are you supposed to pull your seat belt strap all the way out to where it locks and then it clicks and so you can, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, to where it ratchets back.
Yeah.
Yes, and sometimes this is one of those using. Oh yeah. She was asking if you're installing did you say front facing or rear facing? Either one. Are you supposed to pull the seatbelt out until it ratchets all the way back? And the answer is yes. If you do not have a seatbelt that ratchets back, you can use a locking clip, which used to come on the backs of seats. I don't know if this. Oh, it does. It's this metal piece right here. It looks like a T. So if I'm going to hurt myself trying to get it out of here. If your seatbelt does not ratchet back like that, you can use a locking clip to lock it. Sometimes, especially I've noticed this with infant seats, if you ratchet it back super far, it'll tip your seat. Sometimes that means that a latch is a better install, or that you would use the locking clip, but you would not ratchet the seatbelt back. And the locking clip goes next to the lock plate, which is where it clicks in. It goes within this much of the lock plate. I can show you how to do that if you needed to know.
Do you have any tips or tricks for keeping straps untwisted? It seems like every time my kids get in and out, I don't know what they do back there.
They're just playing with the straps. She's asking if I have tips or tricks for keeping the straps untwisted. I personally haven't had problems with lots of twisty straps because we keep them untwisted all the time. But if your kids are messing with them, every time that's a lie. I have had problems. So Levi, every time I put him in his seat, something the strap is folded, and I have to refold it and adjust, so I guess kind of, but just do it every single time. Yeah. Basically. Just run it back and forth, and yeah. Do you have a question, Tracy?
So Easton's 5.5, and he's just in a high back booster, and it just floats there. And I guess I just don't really understand why it's safer to have it just kind of float there under his body, as opposed to it being strapped down somehow. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so Easton's in a car seat or in a booster seat that doesn't hook into the car. I think there are some boosters that you can, so my daughter has a high back booster where the back can come off and then the bottom is just the booster, and hers has latch. So like I could latch just her booster into the car, but you're talking about like one of those $20 ones that is just a piece of plastic. The fact that if they're the correct size to sit in them and their knees are at the edge of the seat and the seatbelt fits them correctly, in a crash, the fact that the seatbelt locks should be enough to keep them in their seat. If they don't fit in them properly, then yes, that would be a problem. And I've also heard that when your kid is not in their seat, you should buckle it in because it becomes a projection advice in a crash if there's not somebody sitting in it. So that's just another thing to do. But I mean, you could teach your kid that every time they get out of the car, they have to seatbelt their seat in. Or like keep a stuffed animal, like, oh, when you're not here, this stuffed animal sits here and they have to wear their seatbelt. That's an idea. Any other questions? Yeah.
Any tips on how to keep your child from going like this when they fall asleep in the car? Because I literally have like tried to finagle some kind of belt like.
I know. The slump. I mean, no, other than pulling over and like wedging a sweatshirt, but like if they're sitting up in a high back booster, there's no recline. And that's just kind of, I feel like it's just kind of how it is when they fall asleep. I mean, it's not comfortable when you fall asleep in the car either, unless you like recline your seat. So, right, that they're gonna, yeah. I mean, no, really, other than just like wedging a sweatshirt or something to kind of, I don't have a tip on that. Right. Yeah, sorry. Anybody else? Yeah.
All right. That was super helpful. Thank you. And that's really all we have for tonight. Come back next week. Megan and Josh are speaking about keeping your honey sweet, which they had a really long drive to and from Idaho to come up with things to talk about. So we'll see who had more input on that one. But anyways, have a wonderful week. We'll see you guys next week. If you're at home, we missed you, and we'll see you soon.